Well, welcome to Touched by Grace. I'm here with Logan and Suzanne Gardner, and we're here talking about a little bit of their background and also heading towards a specific topic and subject, and that is not only the experience itself, but the pressures you feel to fit in and join and going through the process in going through the temple rites of being sealed in the temple as a couple, and the motivation behind that, whether it's personal or external pressures. And so we'll start with just a little bit of background. And so Logan, why don't you just tell us how you grew up and what was the influence in your background and your family?
I was born a Mormon, baptized at 8 years old, and kind of off and on in church, expected to go on a mission and do all the church things that they require, all the classes and scouting and, just all of it. So our family was definitely Mormon, kind of off and on, hit and miss. We didn't go all the time. If it was convenient, we went. That's kind of how we grew up, is not full-time faithful Mormons, but expected to be full-time faithful Mormons, if that makes any sense.
So were your mom and dad sealed in the temple?
Yes, they were married and sealed in the temple, so that therefore we were sealed to them, from what I understand. I don't. Myself and my wife were also sealed in the temple. After we were married civilly first, and then just through kind of pressures and kind of looking for our families to accept us a little more, I think, is why we went through the temple. I remember when I went through the temple, me and her together, and we already had our daughter Whitney. So we were going to get married in the temple and have Whitney sealed to us. Not even really knowing what that meant. I had no clue what being sealed and have Whitney sealed to us actually. Never looked into it. Doing it for our families to be more accepted, I think, around in this area. I feel really bad now that I never looked into it. And matter of fact, I remember coming out of the temple and I told Suzanne that I never want to go back there. And I think we went back once. And that was because my brother came home from a mission and he wanted to go. And so I think both of us kind of regretfully went back. And I think that was it. And I think from after I went to the temple, and we'd been able to talk to each other, because they kind of keep you separate in there. From what I do remember of it, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I've kind of blocked it out, I just remember it wasn't a very good experience for me. But we were kind of on the search from then on to find God without even knowing that we were looking for God. We tried different churches here and there, and we were just kind of two mixed up kids, I think. We battled it for 18 years, I think, till it was less than that, probably 15 years together of just being married and not having God in our lives. And we were got pretty beat up. And it was actually when we found the Lord together through pretty hard times in our lives. And but what the Lord did for us is pulled us out of Mormonism, and not only did He bring me and her together, but He brought our whole family together. So not only was I saved, she was, and so was Whitney and Josh, our two amazing kids.
So how'd that happen? How'd you come to Christ, or what
On my
was it?
knees,
Yeah. At home by
at
yourself or
home,
together? Or
at home by myself.
uh-huh.
Just kind of, I wouldn't say the end of the road, but it kind of was. We had a lot of trouble in our lives, and nothing ever worked. I think it was just the day in, day out grind, and always pushing for something and trying to live a life that wasn't, just to look good on the outside. I think is what I was striving for. All the toys, and I think that's what really meant the most to me at the time. And it obviously came crashing down, and I knew none of it worked, and I found myself on my knees in my living room, and it was the hardest and best night of my whole life.
Mm-hmm. Now, had the Lord brought a Christian into your life to share with you, Logan, or had you been to a
No,
church to hear the gospel, or it was just like the Lord just broke into your world?
the Lord broke into my world. I'd been to, we lived in Arizona for about 10 years, and we'd been to a few different churches there. Very sporadic. We were just kind of searching, but it had been 5 years probably since we'd even been anywhere. And I think the Lord just broke in. Oh man, just hit me like a Mack truck.
So then how, from you giving your life to the Lord at home on your knees, and then you started looking for a church to follow up and grow from that point?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
It's exactly what happened. I'm in construction, so I'm around a lot, and matter of fact, I was driving down 25th here and saw Calvary Chapel, and got right on my phone and called Calvary Chapel to find times, services, and at the time you were having 3 services here, and in the old fellowship hall. Right. And we started coming then. We came that Sunday, and it was definitely an answer to prayer, and we've loved it ever since. We look forward to it.
The Sunday after you gave your life to the Lord, then you guys came to
Yes.
church that next Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it just all fell into place.
Right.
God definitely had a plan for our family, not just me.
Right. Yeah, the whole family.
He definitely has a plan for me. I know that, but I mean, how he just brought our whole family together, and we all came together. We all still come together. Mm-hmm. It was only God. It was a miracle. Mm-hmm. It was definitely supernatural what happened to us.
So just to back up, and Suzanne, your experience, maybe we could, I guess, as you saw Logan surrender to the Lord, I mean, did you immediately come to the Lord, or just come to church, and then, because obviously something radical happened in his life, mm-hmm. and did you see immediate, like, what happened?
We were together in this, and we weren't together when he was on his knees in the living room, but everything else was completely together. We went through, we've been together since we were 13 years old. We'd been girlfriend and boyfriend for mm-hmm. forever. We've just been always together in things, mm-hmm. and we did go through rough times, mm-hmm. and we both were desperate for help, and I did not know any of this had happened to him, and he called and said, I want to go. There's Calvary services, and there's 3 times on Sunday, and so, and I had already decided that I'm going to start going too, so it was really neat. It was just a mutual thing. So
you had wanted to go before he said we're going?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we decided to come without the kids the first week and just check it out, and then brought the kids the next week, and we've never not come ever since then. And it was amazing because you had just started Genesis.
Oh, right.
And it was
that's a good foundation to see the beginning, and then we went through Revelation, so you had kind of you got the beginning too, the beginning and the end.
Incredible.
Yeah, and Genesis took a long time. I mean, it was good because we
there's
really
50
learned.
chapters,
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it took us probably a year or a year and a half to go through Genesis. But tell me a little bit about your background, because he grew up in a kind of nominal LDS family, and what was your background?
I grew up having to please both parents. My mom and her whole family were Presbyterians and very active in the Presbyterian church. And my dad didn't go anywhere until I was probably about 13. And then he had been raised Mormon, and so I think he felt the pressures from his family. And so he and my mom started to make us... it was a battle between them, and it was like, well, they're going to go to my church, my mom would say, and then my dad would say, well, they're going to go to mine also. So we would go to 2 hours at the Presbyterian church and 3 hours at the Mormon church every Sunday. So
wow,
and
that's a lot of church on Sunday.
It was a lot of church. It was a lot of church. So I grew up in Sugar City, and I was the only person that I know of. I thought I was the only person that was not LDS there. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a battle for me. When I went to high school, I just didn't tell anyone that I wasn't Mormon because
But you were going to Ward on Sunday.
I was.
Yeah.
I got baptized when you were 18.
I got baptized when I was 18 in the Mormon church.
Okay. So you were outwardly, but you never fully embraced it in your heart. That's what you mean by saying, I never was really LDS, but you went through the motions? Or how would you describe what the experience was?
I did go through the motions. I knew nothing about their doctrine. When I did start going there, I was probably 13 or 14, and it was more of a social thing. All of the kids and he was there. Yeah. And all of the kids that I knew were there, and it was a big social thing. We honestly didn't go and listen and learn. It was just more
played hangman.
It was to be with your friends, and we went to Mutual, and it was a big party. And
so tell me, I mean, if you're going to be sealed in the temple, and the two of you were, so my understanding is you need a temple recommend. You need to attend church faithfully for a year and tithe for that year. Is that correct? So you guys did that?
We did.
And his memory is really foggy, so we're going to go with the girl for the... He blocked it out. He doesn't want to remember any of that.
True.
And so what do you remember in that process, and what were you feeling, the pressure of family, and do you feel like it was because his family has LDS in background and your dad had become more committed later in life? And so did you feel equally both sides of your family maybe to be more accepted, or the outward pressure? What was going on in your mind?
Logan had got a job that the bishop of our ward where we lived was his boss. And that was the big encouragement, was his boss. Every day would tell him, you guys are having a baby, and you really need to be sealed in the temple because, your precious baby. And that was our biggest pressure, I think. But then when we told our families that, hey, we're taking the temple classes, we are thinking about being sealed in the temple,
all of a sudden we were better people.
Yeah, they all of a sudden would talk to us and, wow, you guys are good, And just the feeling of acceptance was amazing, and how everyone just, you used to be bad and now you're good.
Well, you're joining the club now. You're joining the club. So you went through the classes, and you're thinking, hey, sealed in the temple, that means we're married for eternity. And then Whitney is going to be sealed to us, so its families are forever, and we'll be joined together. And so you went through the classes, and they basically explained what was going to happen through those classes, or no? Or basic Mormonism was taught.
I don't even think that.
It was so long ago that I don't remember the
Okay.
classes. I wish I remembered them a little bit better, but I know that they did not tell us what would happen in the temple.
Okay.
And they
'Cause those
told
are
us
secret
that.
things.
Yeah.
Those are secret rites.
They told us that. They told us we cannot tell you. That's very sacred, so you
Yeah.
cannot know until you get there.
Right.
So they didn't tell us what we
It
were.
was more
in
of how
for.
we had to live.
Right.
That was what the classes was about.
Okay.
You had to have 90% attendance at church and
Okay.
full tithe pay and no coffee and, no, just the rules that you had to do in order to go. That was what they.
Okay. And so, do you remember the actual ceremony and how it kind of walk us through it, Suzanne, from the time you get there and walk us through that process?
Okay. When you get there, usually you have someone that you completely trust, which to me it was my grandma. And we walked in the door, and they have a desk, and they have two men standing at the desk. There might not always be two men, but that's what it was. And they have to look at your temple recommend. And I remember it taking a long time. They looked at the recommend and then looked up at us. They looked back
Is it
down
a
at
letter?
The recommend.
The recommend?
It's like a driver's license.
Oh.
Almost exactly.
Okay.
Same exact size.
Okay. And they
And
want to
it
make
has
sure
a-
that that's a legitimate driver's license to get in the.
Yeah, so I
okay.
remember them looking, and then they immediately take you and they separate you. So you don't have your husband with you, and they took my grandma took me with another lady, and we went into a little dressing room and just kind of instructed you where to go and what to do, and it wasn't something that you talked in. It was just, you were very quiet. You just did what they said and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so you go through and you reach through the veil and do handshakes, and those are handshakes that you need to remember, right?
My experience was that they couldn't teach you that before, so you couldn't remember it that day, so you had a guide with you.
Right. So it's your grandma and a guide.
So then she would tell me what to do and what to say, and that was my experience. And it was a very long thing. The first time that you go, they have what's called an endowment. So it's a lot longer than a normal temple session, and it's when you get. I guess that the way they explain it is when you take out your endowment. So it's a lot longer ceremony. So they take you into a dressing room and you change, and then you go to a certain room and do a certain ritual, and then you meet up in a bigger chapel type room and go through a whole program before you go to that veil. The veil is like the last part of it.
So it's all put together, though, if you haven't went through it because you hadn't been through the temple. So you had to do the endowment first and then go on to the being sealed, which is, so the whole process, how long does that take to get through it?
3 or 4 hours, I would imagine. It was a long.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And then you're encouraged, it's silent, you're not supposed to speak about this. And, the ritual that I have been, told about, that, you do this and you do this, is it still, did you do that?
That was when we went.
When
it
we
was like
went,
that.
it was
I think
And
it's
I guess
not that
they
way.
changed it.
I think that's not so today, but it was when you guys went.
Yeah, it was when we went. I think Grant told us, my brother, that they don't do that anymore.
Right.
But you still say it, you just don't do the hand motion.
No hand motions. So if you speak about it, would be something like, may your throat be cut, or your tummy.
Guts spilled.
Yeah.
Something about
I
the
do
bowels
remember.
would be
Yeah,
spilled
right.
everywhere.
I remember a little bit about the veil. Just remembering, man, if I got to remember all this, I'm never making it. Because there was a lot of things, and I was scared to death. And there was somebody at your side showing you what to do, and
A guide.
a guide and what to do.
Is
and how
that
to say
someone
it.
that you brought along with you, Logan, or no? Like she had her grandma. You just had a guide.
I just had a guide.
Okay.
And I do remember the standing at the veil, and they're just like you gotta shake that hand a certain way, and somebody was showing you, and they give you a different name, and they gave her a different name, and
so you each have different names that they gave.
Yeah, and I remember that we weren't supposed to use those names or something. Is that right? I just remember that we weren't supposed to.
They were secret names.
They were secret names, secret handshakes, just to get through the veil, and it was really different.
Come to find out, it was the name of the day. So when you're there, they make you feel like this is your absolute special name, and no one else can know this name. This is your name, and you only say this when you go through the veil, and you don't tell your husband what the name is, and you don't tell anyone what the name is. And then we found out later that every single lady that goes through the temple that day has the exact same name.
Oh, I see.
And every man that goes through
It's
the temple
like on a
that
board
day.
or something, huh?
Yeah,
like today's name is and today's tribe is.
Yeah.
That's what we've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that, but I mean.
So before you guys started taking the classes, you kind of the black sheep of the family. Anyway, Logan is. He's the dark horse, right? Yeah.
How did you know?
from one black sheep to another, right? We have a kinship, a fellowship of those things. But and then you're accepted. You're more embraced by the family. It's you guys are one of the club. You fit in now. And then afterwards, I would think it would be even more so. All right, Suzanne and Logan are now committed, but your attendance probably didn't follow, and your tithing didn't follow because you just wanted the 1 year recommend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you're back to normal life, but at least you're sealed in the temple, and Whitney is sealed to you. And so, how'd the family, friends, how'd everything, the responsiveness from the people because of that, how'd that change?
Oh man, it changed a lot. I mean, see if I can explain this a little bit. Like talking to like my parents and being a black sheep, and I was only in my 20s. I mean, we were young, and it was neat just to be accepted finally, and not
Even
only
by your parents,
even by my parents, by my brothers and my sister. It was, I guess it was really cool for a minute to have people be proud of me, and that's all it took, was
going through that ceremony.
going through that ceremony.
Did you think to yourself at that time, if I'd have known this, I would have done this 10 years earlier?
No, I don't think so. It really was. It was only to be accepted, and the reason I say that is because we took those temple classes and everything, but we never looked into it. I think after we went through, we had a ton of questions. I mean, even to each other, it was pretty quiet for a while when we came out because they keep you apart in there. And I think if they kept you together, there would be people talking, because I know I would have said something to her like,
what's going on?
Yeah, what is going on here? Because it was scary to me, because I didn't understand it. There was so many things throughout each room, that all the stuff that you're supposed to know and understand, and this was supposed to be an amazing thing, and it wasn't amazing to me. And I wanted to ask her, and she was, on the girl's side, and I'd wanting to nudge her going, are you liking this? Because I'm not liking this, and I don't know if that's why they keep us apart or whatever in there, so the husband and wife wouldn't do that. But I remember when we left, and I told her I don't ever want to go back there, that she didn't really say a whole lot. It was pretty cool that we have that kind of relationship to where I could say that to her, because when I'm in there sitting there going, I wonder if she's getting this because I'm not getting this. You know, I don't understand what's going on here, and if I have to remember all this, I'm in trouble because I don't get it. There was so many things that you had to remember and had to say that you understood that, and I didn't.
Yeah, didn't.
I didn't get it at all. I mean, I guess. But yeah, I mean, to go back to the original question about being accepted, it was, I mean, we lived here in Rexburg, Idaho, so obviously we were almost instant stars, you know. I mean, Logan and Suzanne went through the temple. Everything's okay now, you know, and it's okay to show up at her mom and dad's house, my mom and dad's house, and everybody thinks we're these different people now, but we never changed. I mean, going through there it steered me more away than it did, you know, back to.
So now let's fast forward. You get on your knees, you give your life to Jesus. It's a personal experience. You went through the temple, nothing changed, no transfer. But the one thing that really did change was the acceptance of your LDS family,
Yes.
of you. But now you give your life to Jesus, and actually you want to get close to the Lord and walk with the Lord. How in reverse then did that affect the family when now Logan and Suzanne have left their ward or whatever it is, and they're going to that Calvary Chapel place out there on...
Oh, man. The transformation that took place, I think when we first started coming here, a lot of things happened. I mean, our Bible opened up for the first time. We wanted to know. I think we went through a stage of, what if Mormonism's true? You know, what if?
Yeah.
You know,
That's a great question to ask.
We went through that, like, I think even together, we were like, what if this is, you know, because we were finding out, we're learning the Bible and reading our Bibles, and we're actually praying, not even together yet, but apart. I know praying together took us a while to actually talk to God together. Yeah. You know, I mean, I don't know why, but it took us a minute to.
It's an
get that
intimate
done.
thing.
It really is.
Awkward.
It's intimate, but everything went crazy. Matter of fact, when we were going through, I wonder if they're real or not. So we started looking at some Mormon things and so I have a little brother that went on a mission, and I'm like, hey man, can you explain this? You know, and I remember him just almost being happy, like, yeah. He knew that we were coming to Calvary, and we told him about it, and so we had a lot of questions because obviously something changed in our life. And it was not just one of those changes. It was something big, and so we did have a lot of questions, and so we went to the person, I guess, that we trusted the most. I trust Grant with my life, and so we did have questions. We went to him, and what we found is that he can't answer any of this. I mean, he'd like to, and I remember we showed him some things, and he was going to be this good Mormon missionary, and he even told us this later. You guys were going to be Mormon, I didn't care, and this and that. But I remember him just sitting there with his mouth wide open going, I don't know what to say. And if that's that question, if I can't answer it, what other questions? And it started him on a search too. And so that's a good thing, but the bad thing is like her dad, we haven't talked to him since we started coming here, and it wasn't just coming here, it was since we found Jesus. That's the main thing. I'll never forget it. He came over to our house, and there was a Calvary Chapel bulletin on our counter, and I said, hey, why don't we all go to the Easter program together? And I thought it was a neat thing, you know. I was like, everybody, it's going to be awesome, you know. Yeah. It's a story of Jesus, you know. Yeah. And it didn't turn out that way at all. I really thought it would. I thought it would be cool that, you know, her mom and dad would go, and me and her and my
It'd be a family event.
It'd be a family thing. It was at the Civic
that year.
And so it was a nice big neutral place, and it wasn't like we were bringing bringing them here to the chapel, and we just thought it would be, and it was, I mean, it was something we didn't even talk about. It was just laying there, and they were there, and hey, let's go. And well, the next day she got a call from her dad, and they went and did this big long, you guys are crazy, and you can't have this. And well, he hasn't talked to us since. I mean, not one word. But
so how many years is that now?
6?
6 years.
5 or 6.
5 or
A
6.
long time.
Wow.
How long ago has it been since we did Genesis? 5 or 6 years.
It was probably 6 years ago. Yeah.
So, but you know, I think, and then we went through an anger stage of, once we did find out that, you know, Mormonism is not true. I mean, we learned this by
Examination.
couple of years examination, looking through things, asking questions, talking to you several times, and talking to other people, and getting involved in Bible studies. I mean, we know. I mean, we knew. You just want to tell them, and you don't. Through all this, and you get this knowledge of Jesus, and you don't understand how you can't tell them, and they don't understand what you're saying, and how it's all of a sudden a fight, and it's a scary thing, you know, that you want to share this love, you know, Jesus' love, and you want to share that with someone, and you've been praying for them, and so you go talk to them, and they shut you out and never want to talk to you again, and how upsetting that is. I mean, like, even with my parents, my dad's a little bit more understanding, but I mean, he even comes here once in a while, but like with her dad and other family and friends, how it's like you love somebody so much, and you wouldn't be telling them this as a lie. I guess that's how I could basically explain it, that you want them to have what you have, and that you know they can have what you have just in 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, God looks past all the junk, and how he can just break into your life and change it so amazingly fast. And you want your family and friends to have that. And I guess it took me a long time, so I just pray that, you know, that God could use us as a vessel to help the people that are around us. And it's obviously we can't, you know, your flesh can't do it, and that took us a long time to realize that
the Spirit of the
we
Lord
have
needs
to
do
pray
it,
for people, and that's the only thing you really can do. I mean, and pray that he could use us for whatever his will for us is. I think is what we've come to, because man, we've had the head banging against, you know, like we're against, and we're not against you, we're for you, and I wouldn't be asking you this, you know, or telling you about Jesus if I didn't love you.
So Suzanne, how would you describe the joy you have in the Lord and what's going on in your family's life compared to all the years before, even going through the temple ceremonies and stuff?
It's indescribable. It's amazing. I don't know how I lived all those years without him. And just the day-to-day stuff that means nothing, that now that I have Jesus, that those problems are not there anymore. I don't know how I raised our kids for all those years without having Jesus. And I'm the happiest person in the world now because of him. And I appreciate everything. The difference, there's not even, it's just night and day. I remember just waking up every morning, and every day was just a chore to get done. It was just, okay, we have laundry, we have dishes, we have work, we have kids to take care, and there was no pleasure in the day. It was just, let's get this day done until the next day. And now it's completely different. Now I love seeing the kids and love every day, and I love coming to church. I love reading the Bible. I just love, there's so many things that I love that I didn't love back then. There's absolutely there's no way to describe the love. So
That's true.
it's amazing. Yeah.
It's so true, and it's all by God's grace. That we didn't earn it, we didn't deserve it, we just receive it, and then the life that begins to flow when He touches us by His grace. And it's such a contrast to, not, we're here sitting because your backgrounds are LDS, but any kind of just outward form of religion, that you do this and you conform to the status quo of the group so that you're accepted by them. But when it comes to a personal relationship with Jesus, it's just, it is like night and day. It's like we were living in the dark our whole life, and then all of a sudden somebody turned on the light, and we're like, wow, this is what life's like.
Well, the song "Amazing Grace" has always been my favorite song, but the words to that song are, I was blind, but now I can see, and I think, wow, that's me. I mean, it happened to me.
Yeah.
And I think what Sue said is incredible, because you can't explain Jesus. Mm-hmm. You can't. I mean, you wish you could, because everybody'd go, yeah, okay. Yeah. But you can't. You have to, I don't know.
You have to experience Him. It's like seeing a great piece of cake. You can tell somebody else, well, I tasted this. It's so wonderful. Yeah. But all they're doing is looking at it. So you really got to taste it. And that's what, the Bible says, that taste and see that the Lord is good. Check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And watch how good He is.
I have something to add about the temple. When we go to the temple, that was basically what they told us that we would feel, that we would get Jesus there.
I see.
And so the whole time you're in there, you're waiting for this experience to happen, and it's more of a, okay, it's going to happen at 6 o'clock when you're in this room, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen after either, and you keep waiting for
the experience,
for this experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to explain that, but it's just, I think the way I perceived it was more of a ritual that, okay, you will get baptized on this day. After a year. This is your baptism day, and you're supposed to receive the Holy Spirit then, but you don't. And then you go to the temple, and you're supposed to have this big spiritual experience there, and you're just more confused than ever.
It just falls flat and just doesn't.
Yeah, it falls flat for sure.
Because Jesus is not there.
And then you receive Jesus, and you're like, oh, this is what it's all about. Life is found in Him. So I know His grace is amazing. Well, I want to thank you guys for sharing your story, how Jesus touched you by grace, and sharing the background. And so I know a lot of people will be blessed by it.
Thank you.